hacking is really, hey, how do I get you as an individual, right? Or attack you as an individual to get you to part from your credentials, get you to install software. Obviously, Atif just showed some of that rogue browser software extension. Very scary stuff. But as you can imagine, my daughter was using my computer, unbeknownst to me, to do some schoolwork. She's fifth grade, install some browser extensions. Next thing you know, I had some of these weird things happening in the machine. So how do you guard against this? I believe you have to take a holistic approach, what it characterizes as a 360-degree approach to stopping these human attacks, right? Prevent these social engineering attacks, these phishing attacks, targeted spear phishing, smishing, account takeover, business email compromise, rogue software, which lays in ransomware and malware. The only way you can do this, again, is take a holistic approach. And so we do just that. Number one, you want to be able to do an assessment. What is your current state of environment, right? Look at so what's going on with your own data. I'm a big fan of not just people telling you on the security side that you have a problem. And we're not here to scare anyone at all. This is about, hey, this is real world stuff that we're seeing. So you want to take a baseline. What is getting through your current defenses? Because I will tell you, I've been in the business long enough to know a lot of the tools that are built today to stop these human attacks were done with two things. Number one, they look at signatures. And second, they use trusted domains. As we just pointed out, trusted domains, throw that away, because if you trust domains, you're going to get killed. There are so many more attacks coming out of Google that look like they come out of Microsoft or out of Google or Adobe or Dropbox. You pick your name of your trusted domain. That's where they're coming from. And that's the reason why we're a big fan of looking at that baseline, the assessment, get your current state, what's getting through the current environment. Second, you want to be able to do training, but do training smartly, not from the old way of doing training where I'm simulating attacks and effectively, in some respects, pissing your users off or your employees off because I'm trying to trick people. We know that doesn't work. And the reason why we know that doesn't work, none of us pay attention to computer-based training. Let's call a spade a spade. It's compliance-based. I just tried to click, get through it, answer my 10 questions, so I passed the test. And lo and behold, we know that the same top 10 users or the same top 20 users always fail, right? It's because they're the click-happy folks. They just don't pay attention. We fervently believe in live-based reinforced training. So at the point you click on a malicious attack, let's block it, but let's also say what it was attempting to do. Hey, this attack was trying to steal your credentials so it could do X, Y, Z. So we do live reinforced training at the point of click, at the point of attack. That way we've seen a dramatic reduction in how people behave and interact with these bad actors. Third, you want to be able to protect, right? You have to protect at the point of that attack. And there's really two ways that we're looking at this. Number one, because many more of these attacks are coming across this, again, converged device, right? Personal and work life, BYOD. You do need to protect yourself on device. Atif highlighted just one of those. I actually call this the gnarly attack. If you're not actually stopping that PDF that has an HTML page or a link in it that resolves locally, if you're not on device, you're never going to see that. It's never been seen in the wild. You have to have the ability to do a quick scan and block of that type of attack. I can add one other dimension here with TLS 1.3 end-to-end encryption as an example, a WhatsApp attack that's correlated with LinkedIn. You're never going to see that if it's encrypted. It has to be clear text. You look at that on the endpoint. So we have an endpoint protection both on the mobile side as well as on your browser to protect all these human hacking attacks. And then finally, no good defense comes without also being able to respond to something. Nothing is foolproof, so you do have to have the ability, if you do see something, to respond. So we have very strong incident response. That's effectively what we call our total human hacking defense service. Again, at its core, what we're designed, our mission in life is to stop human hacking. We believe if you stop these attacks, 95% of all the bad stuff, malware, ransomware, financial fraud, all begins with that human attack. If you can stop that up front, you prevent these things. You stop it at the core, or at the root. and you don't even have to focus on the symptoms anymore, right? So that's the kind of a net message of how we help. The second aspect, in which if you could just move to the next slide, I mentioned this assessment. If nothing else, I leave you with this. I think it's always important to take that baseline, know exactly where you sit today. Don't be naive to what's going on in these attacks. So always do those health checks. It's the reason why people do pen testing. You do vulnerability testing. In this case, do an assessment in one channel and one channel only right now, which is email, which is it's still a very popular way to deliver these attacks. Do an assessment of what got through there. It's pretty eye-opening when you go in and people have put in a secure email gateway service or they use Microsoft Defender. It's pretty eye-opening if you see what gets through those defense layers. It's not uncommon. We see pretty sophisticated supply chain attacks. We'll see someone that came upstream as a vendor and got into the email chain and the communications have been open, and you start seeing financial transaction information that starts being shared. Or you could see, again, some of these rogue browser software extensions because it looks like it came from a support person that could also be correlated, by the way, with an SMS that said, hey, go change your password because someone compromised your account. Those are the type of things that just good to get that baseline. You're going to see who are the most abused users. Again, it's not uncommon that we'll see, as you can imagine, high value users like CFOs, CEOs, people that have product information or IP. Those are the ones that are likely to be attacked, and you see the multitude of attacks. So we believe, again, take that baseline assessment. We do run this as a self-assessment. You can run it on your own environment. You'll see it's a very 1, 2, 3 process. It takes about 5 minutes, and you'll get a report, right? And then we can run through that with you and show you where you currently sit.
So there's something important in that middle window. We see, I see this as an O365 administrator a lot. There's permissions requested from an app, but how do you trust that box?
Yeah, so again, back to this point, don't trust anything. But in this case, you want to trust and verify, right? Or meaning verify what we're doing. So we obviously, for this particular assessment, there's two sides of the assessment. One is the Microsoft 365 assessment, looking at emails and communication effectively vector. So that process is you do with the OAuth token, put in your credentials. Now, the key thing here, it is trusted and verified. There's a checkbox from Microsoft, so you know it's legitimate, unlike some of the stuff we showed before where there's some missing components. And that's very important here. There's very, very slight derivations as to how folks are tricking, right? The bad actors are tricking. So one of the aspects here is the checkbox. We verify this against Microsoft as well in our own engines. So it's extremely secure to be able to input that, and it's a temporary password. I should note a couple other things here. We don't maintain data long term, right? Everything is encrypted in flight, so it's highly confidential. One thing we pride ourselves just at its core, privacy matters. And in fact, it goes so far as to say we guarantee privacy here, to say that's how important it is for us in terms of making sure that you can run this assessment securely.
So I would like to add on assessment that, all of this process happens in the memory, right? So while we are looking for the link, right, right after that, we don't even write it on the disk, right? So once the assessment is over, the container is just destroyed, and so nothing even gets written on the disk, right? So it's a completely memory-based process, right? Even our developers don't even have access to this information.
Yeah.
And the link I'd like to make sure the audience sees on this page is slashnext.com/request-a-demo, request-a-demo. That's critically important for people to want to be able to take a look at more, to get more information from SlashNext is one way. We have some questions from the audience. This is from Jason. He echoes trust nothing is the first part of his question. But he says, is there a recommended solution that doesn't need human interaction? This seems to be the most insecure point of entry. Hardware authentication is difficult to manage, etc. So basically, can we just get humans out of this?
Well, that's exactly what we are trying to do, right? I'm a huge fan. I mean, it's pretty amazing for me that all of us are trying to automate humans, right? From automated cars to and fishing is the only thing we putting the human race backwards. We're telling them to do it yourself, right? So what we are offering is pretty much automated solution, right? We gonna our mission is to stop the phishing page before even user sees that. So we are actually work at the on click level, and so you don't even have to see the page that you have to even go to the second factor stage, and that's exactly what we are doing. We are not precisely a training company. We are a pure prevention solution that will make sure that you never even see the attack. We block it before the user even set eye on that page.
Yeah. So
Uh,
this goes back to what I was saying. We again, we take the philosophy you want to fight machines with machines, because you really look at these attackers, right? They're using these machine based kits, right? That they're not really creating them, and they're spawning them not just in days and weeks. It's now hours and minutes. And Atif noted, right? We used to see about 25,000 daily attacks. Now it's 50,000. We expect that to continue to double. So there's just no way from a human perspective that you can stay ahead of this curve. And yet, if you think about it, on this side of the house, right, on the user side of the house, we're through training, through these other methods, we're trusting a human to stop this process. And it's simply not possible. Too much goes on in your daily life, um, and there's too many attack vectors now. We've mentioned email, but again, it is uh, a lot of kids. I say kids now, but don't even use email as their trusted source. It's text, it's Discord,
right.
um, it's Slack, it is many different other communication channels. So the last thing you ever want to do is think that as a user, I can train it out of them, or I can put some other people process component. You have to fight machines with machines. You want to automate that. You want to deliver. You want to make it as service. So there's no thinking involved. It just happens and it's prevented before it actually infects. And I believe if you do that, you prevent many of the downstream errors that occur, as opposed to trying to go focus on the symptoms of the upstream problem. And at its core, our philosophy is can we stop 95% of these successful attacks at its core by doing machine based prevention, right? As opposed to human prevention and automating that process.
Just a note for the audience, we've put up a poll question for you. We're going to answer some more of your questions, but we have a question for you. What additional information would you like about SlashNext? Starting with their free risk assessment for Microsoft 365, data sheet, and a number of other items. So, I think I'm going to suspect I know the answer to this next question, but it was marked as high priority, so I want to make sure that we bring it forward. But it's just like Phish testing. We test our users with fake MFA requests. How often do you suggest testing users, and what else can we be doing to improve user awareness, knowing that humans are the weak link?
So again, I'll comment on this, and I'll comment on this, and certainly Atif can to pick up here. We just talked about this in many respects. Implement a machine-based prevention process. Don't rely on training. Training is an augmentation aspect, right? And as I noted, training you want to reinforce at the point of an interaction with an attack. We all know when you're preparing to do a talk, right? There's one thing when you're delivering a quote fake talk versus actually doing it live. You somehow pay more attention when you're live and in the game and in the process. And so we believe in that live reinforced training, because when we do that, people pay attention. And then you see it, and it's statistically proven here, where you see a significant deceleration in their participation in these attacks moving forward. But when you're doing a simulated attack, people know it's bullshit. And they know, and because they're pretty easy to detect. Yes, I know some of the administrators out there like to get, in some of these tools, they like to get pretty foolhardy. I know one particular attack they played off of a bonus, and that's how they got people to participate. That had a little bit of an employee blowback. Second, did it really prevent those people from clicking on it the next time? No. And that's the reason why in all those training simulations, you will see the top 10 users will be the top 10 users throughout the year. And so do live reinforced training and rely on machines to prevent the attacks before they actually happen. So take that multi-layered defense approach. So Atif, I don't know if you want to build off that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think training is tough. I mean, I think there are reasonable training courses available for email perspective, right? But now you're talking about other communication medium. How many courses are there to spot SMS phishing or LinkedIn based phishing, right? I think the problem is that, I mean, there's so much information that we have to go through each day. I mean, we have stopped paying attention. We simply, there's so much information flow, right? And
Yeah.
now even if you don't even have the training courses for other communication medium, how to spot phishing within WhatsApp, right? You're just helping the email cause, right? And to be really frank, with self phishing IR, humans have a false positive rate of closer to 90%, right? So not only they have the false negative part, they're actually bombarding their IT team with fake email. So what with legitimate email? So what happens that 90% of the time you engage your IT guy, hey, I got a phishing, and the IT guy says, hey, it's not a phishing, right? So what's going to happen that after a certain time you'll say, okay, I get embarrassed every time I report a benign email. I need to stop clicking. So again, it's a reverse effect of training. You scare them too much that they start reporting benign. Admins push back and say, okay, are you crazy? These are the benign one. And this is where you come into a situation where you say, okay, I have to engage these guys and phishing attack is successful. So humans
This
are
is actually
confused between admin and company.
this is a great point. We've actually seen companies have to hire more, not less, because of some of the training, right? So people become so ultra scared because they actually get fined. They get fines, they get reported, they get some, the bad list. No one wants to be shamed, so they overly report. And then you have to dedicate a SOC administrator to do nothing but go through all this stuff, which are actually real emails or real communications.
Patrick,